أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. We start in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. We bear witness there is no deity worthy worship except Allah. Praise and glory be to Him. And that Muhammad is the seal of messengers. May peace and blessing of Allah be upon him, his family, his companions, and those who follow this path until the day of judgment. I greet you with greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all, dear brothers, dear sisters, and dear viewers, and of course the brother Asad Zaman, our guest today on this A2Z show on the 2nd of October 2020, 15th of Safar 1442. And of course we inshallah start with usually our local news, and I think brother Asad Zaman, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dr. Abdul Aziz.
How are you
Good
keeping all right, inshallah? Thank you very
It doesn't
much.
feel like a week, does it?
Wallahi, a week is gone very, very, very fast. Wallah, the time is, may Allah bless our time, inshallah, bless our life and bless our health as well. And may Allah make it easy for those people who maybe are suffering from this COVID-19 to recover from the illness, and those who passed away, may Allah give mercy upon them
Sure.
and
So
forgive them, inshallah.
what's on the menu today then?
Yeah, the menu, I think, first of all, I think the Friday pulpit, that is like a community news. I think you have been in the Muslim Foundation in the city center. And what
That's
was
right.
the topic?
Well, it's a topic I discussed at the other mosque last week. It's a topic that is going to become more and more important as more and more people know about what's happening to their children in schools. So yeah, I gave a khutbah a couple of weeks ago regarding the changes which are coming. And of course, in a khutbah, especially nowadays, you've got about 10 minutes, so you really can't say much. You just get started and that's it, it's gone. So some people asked me, look, can you elaborate on what are the rights of parents? If we don't like what our children are being taught, do we have any right to withdraw them from school? Do we have any rights at all? So I thought, you know what, I'm going to devote a complete khutbah on just what's happening, why it's happening, and what we can do about it. So that's what I talked about today. I started off by explaining why the government really is doing this. The fact is, Dr. Abdul Aziz, you see, you and I grew up in a different UK. I mean, I've been here since, over 50 years now. And since a child, I've seen changes within the society. Things which you would just hear here or there are now fully part of society. It's taken 50 years, but it's now fully within the society. For example, we used to hear about things like lesbianism and homosexuality and stuff, but it was, it was something that no one ever spoke about, and it was like something disgusting, and only people with mental issues would even talk about it. It was something deviant, right? Normal people just didn't go down this road. Now what the government is saying is, look, society's changed. For example, pornography now is really widespread throughout the world, not just in the UK, but it's throughout the world. Anyone in the world, I mean, who doesn't have a mobile, and who doesn't have the internet? Everyone has got access to the internet. Well, certainly most people have. And therefore, that there's a huge amount of pornography, filth, which is on the internet, and children, not just adults, but children are accessing it. And they are seeing the most horrific images, and from an early age, they're becoming addicted to it. The result is that it's having an impact on them. It's causing a destructive impact on them. So that's just one aspect. And partly because of this and other factors, we are seeing a total loss of family values. Morality, it has taken a huge drastic change. What's right and wrong for you and me is no longer, there are no wrongs now. Anything and everything goes. We are living in a society where there's nothing wrong. There's nothing, you enjoy whatever you want, you do it. There are no rules. It's an anything goes society. So the government is saying, look, we have now, whether we like it or not, a very diverse and different society, different community. So we need to make sure we reflect that. And so what the government is not saying is, yes, there's gays and lesbians and bisexuals and people of different genders and people who change their genders and what have you. And we are being told, and children are being told, that you could be a boy trapped inside a girl's body, you could be a girl trapped inside a boy's body. If you want to change, we will provide you with the puberty blockers and the hormone therapy and everything else. This is the very confused world that our children are now growing up in. So the government is saying, look, whether we like it or not, this is the reality. So we need a syllabus which will remove discrimination from the society for these minority groups, like the LGBT and others. So in the Education Act of 2010, the government incorporated they established 9 protected characteristics. Now, without going into all the other characteristics, there are 2 categories that concern us. One category is that of faith and belief. So that is a protected characteristic. Okay. And the other is sexual orientation and also gender. So when the government decided to incorporate this gender and morality and the whole concept of marriage and all that stuff within this relationship and sex education, they realized that there was going to be a clash between 2 protected characteristics. One was faith and religion, and the other was faith was about sexual morality and transgender and these issues, sexual orientation. Why? Because faith in the area of sexual morality and relationships says, and this is not just Islam, all the faiths say this, marriage and sexual relations can only be between a biological man and a biological woman in wedlock, married. That's the only context that it is allowed. Of course, sexual orientation says you can have a relationship with whoever you want, pretty much. Everyone who's in this alphabet of LGBTQI, ABCD, whatever they're going to be adding to this alphabet. So when they realized that there was going to be a clash between them, they issued very strong, not just guidelines, but directives to all schools, head teachers, and the teachers who will be teaching this topic. Look, this is how you manage it so that there is no clash. So in terms of sexual orientation, you have to just tell the students, these people exist, these relationships exist. You've got children in the school who've got 2 mums or who've got 2 dads, like gays and lesbians. That's the reality. Whether you agree with it or not, that's a separate issue. You need to not discriminate against these. So that's what the government is saying through this syllabus to the children. Now, what the government has also said is, under no circumstances do you tell people that you have to change your beliefs, because beliefs is also a protected characteristic. So in this situation, to say to children, it's okay to be gay, is going beyond what the government is telling schools. What the government is saying is just children should not discriminate against those who fall in these categories, who might have two mums or two dads or whatever. What schools are actually doing is something very different, because they're afraid of the gay lobby and they're afraid of being labeled homophobic. They are telling children things like it's okay to be gay, and also you have even outside bodies are being allowed in, gay lobbies, yeah, LGBT lobbies, who have a very clear agenda, which is to destroy the concept of heteronormativity, which is that it's not a normal thing for there to be a sexual relationship between just, opposite sexes. No, they want to impose and normalize homonormativity. So destroy the idea of a relationship between opposite sexes and normalize this idea that you can have any kind of relationship. So basically the kind of material that they're using, and they have, and they've said to all schools, we'll provide you with this material free of charge, and we'll send teachers in as well who can help teach this topic. And of course, this is, as you know, as a teacher, this is music to the ears of any school, that, someone is going to sort out the entire syllabus for them. They don't have to formulate the syllabus. What the government has said to, and of course, just to finish this point off, these people are coming in with their own agenda, which is to basically normalize homosexuality, and using their own material and stuff, totally confusing children. For example, there was this one so-called Muslim LGBT, LGBT Hidayah LGBT, who are based in Birmingham, and they came into a Manchester school a few months ago, and majority Muslim, and they said to the Muslim children, when did you decide to be heterosexual? That was one of the questions on a questionnaire that all the children had to fill in. How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous is that? And they were saying things like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with being gay and Muslim, and the Quran is not against homosexuality, etc. Stuff that you and I know is complete rubbish. But that's the message that they were sending out. So this is what's happening in schools. What the government, coming back to what the government is actually saying to all schools is, and it's very clear, black and white, in the 57-page document that they have issued all schools, is when you are formulating this curriculum, this relationship and health and sex education syllabus, then you must consult the parents of the children. Number one, you must consult them and take their religious views on board. You can't ignore their faith, because their faith is also a protected characteristic. You can't ignore that. Secondly, all material that you will be exposing the children to, whether it's videos or books or anything, you must first show it to the parents. If the parents are going to be happy with them, that's fine. If they're not, you need to come up with material that they are going to be happy with, that fulfills the purpose of the syllabus and what the government is trying to achieve with this syllabus. So, and also, before you deliver the syllabus, you need to tell parents when it's going to, the end version, you must show parents. Make sure they're happy with it. And in which term you're going to be teaching, and all the full details you must give to parents. Now, that's not necessarily what's been happening in schools. And as I said, there's a huge amount of promotion of the LGBT agenda. And they are basically saying it's okay to be gay, which is going beyond what the government is saying to them. I had a student who told me just a few months ago that when he's year 11 now, he's about 16. When he was in year 5, that's about 5 years ago, when he was about 9 or 10 years of age, a teacher came into their classroom, and the majority of the children are Muslim boys and girls. And the teacher said to them, 1/3 of you are going to be gay. Now, is this what the government is saying, that the teachers have a right to do this? No, this goes totally beyond and indeed against what the government is telling schools. It's going against because it goes against their religious views. And that is a protected characteristic. So they were actually acting illegally when they promote homosexuality. So that is the situation we find ourselves in. And of course, there's different things for primary and secondary schools. Primary schools, you see, you need to look at two things here. You've got relationship and health education, and you've got sex education. In primary schools, relationship and health education is compulsory, but sex education is not compulsory. It's up to the head teacher and perhaps to the governors. So if it is not compulsory, sex education, then our argument would be, well, why teach 4 and 5 and 6? From the age of 4, they would be teaching this. If in primary schools it's not compulsory and there are parents who object to it, why teach it? And this is about parent power. Parents getting together and making clear to the head teacher, we don't want you to teach this subject to these young kids. And secondly, show us what you're going to be presenting in the relationship and health education as well. Because that also we need to be happy with. Remember, Dr. Abdul Aziz, we're not against the entire syllabus. It's one aspect. See, the whole syllabus is about how children can protect themselves from all the harms in society, etc. That's absolutely fine. Our problem is with a small section of that syllabus which deals with relationships and gender and such other moral issues. And that's a fairly small part of the syllabus. It's not a huge part. That's where our issue is. So we're not telling them, throw the whole syllabus. No, only this one particular part. So now when it comes to high schools, both relationship and health education are compulsory, and sex education. Again, although they're compulsory, parents must be consulted before they actually formulate it, during the process of formulation of the curriculum, and once it's finished, the final version. And parents need to be shown exactly what their children are going to be exposed to. That's a right that parents have, that the government has given them. Again, parents need to know that they have this right. Again, if they're not happy with any aspect, especially sex education, even for their, in secondary schools, then although they don't have an automatic right, in primary schools they have an automatic right to withdraw their child. But in secondary schools, they don't have an automatic right, but the headmaster should not object if the objection is strong enough from the parents. They should.
Therefore, the parent will still have the right to withdraw their children from all lessons
delivered
outside the national curriculum of science lessons in primary school.
When something is compulsory, then you don't have a right to withdraw. You need to make that request.
Mm.
If it is compulsory, you can't automatically, but you know, the head teacher should listen. If something is not compulsory, then parents have an automatic right to withdraw their child. And in primary school, sex education is not compulsory. So these are things that parents need to know. This empowers them. Number one, the government is on our side. All people of faith who don't like their children to be taught about lesbianism and gays and bisexuals and transgender and all this stuff, the government is on our side. The school cannot teach our children what we don't want them to learn, because even the government accepts that the primary educator of the children are the parents. 75% of the responsibility is with parents, and only 25% is with schools. We as parents must sit down with our children and we must talk to them on a regular basis. Give them quality time. Give them the time that is their haq, that it is their right. And from a very early age, from the age of maybe even 2 and 3 and 4, we need to be teaching them what is right and what is wrong. By the time they get to 14, 15, it's going to be just too late. They have already decided what's right and what's wrong for themselves if they have not been given the right tarbiyah.
So therefore, you are here saying use school policy, especially with other parents. Ask to see the new curriculum, the resources, including videos that will be used, and find out about outside agencies who will be invited to give presentations and talks to people. And please note, yes?
But very important on this point, schools are not obliged to invite outside bodies.
Mm.
You see, and parents can insist that they don't invite these gay lobbies to basically propagate their message within the school system.
And therefore, the schools are also accountable for standard equality, diversity policy that quote respect for religious faith. Very important.
Absolutely. They and parents need to know that they are the ones in control, not the schools. The school can only teach the children what the parents don't object to. Yes.
But how many now? You are speaking about this, but do you think with this COVID-19 and all this, there is a lot of schools who have not actually formulated policy because of COVID-19? Some they have done and they started this, but how many parents in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic conditions will be aware of their rights and aware what is going on in their schools?
It's up to us through this medium of the internet, of video, whatever, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, to inform parents of what their rights are. Through the khutbahs, through talks, we have to use every means to educate and empower parents, because parents need to know that the government is on their side and that the schools cannot teach their children what they object to. Very important.
All right. Okay. MashaAllah. Thank you very much for that point, inshallah. The other one about COVID-19, as we speak about it, and this SMP MP, Margaret Ferrier, who had tested positive on Monday, and she
traveled 400 miles from.
And she went to Glasgow, from Glasgow to the House of Parliament and back as well. Although she had this kind of, she tested positive. Now, this is an MP, I think, and she knows the COVID-19 pandemic guidelines and laws and everything.
She broke the law. She broke the law, simple as that. And therefore, there's now enormous pressure on her to resign.
Therefore, withdrawing the whip from her.
Well,
pay the
she's going to
fine.
end up resigning. Yeah. No. Look, the public isn't going to accept that. Her party will not accept that because she's setting a bad example, a terrible example. She complained bitterly about Cummings, the right-hand man of Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, when he traveled hundreds of miles when he shouldn't have done, when he should have been self-isolating. And she made a big hoo-ha about that. And so she can't now, having very clearly broken the law, she knew she had the virus, and still she traveled on public transport all the way to, traveled 400 miles. And of course, now the British Rail, or whoever is controlling that line, they're now worried that, and they want to know, who she was in contact with, so that they can contact those people and ask them to be checked out, to be tested. So it has very serious repercussions. Who did you come into contact with? And they need to, because especially at a time when we are in the process of a second peak, and the whole country is about to go back into lockdown. A very large proportion of the country is already in lockdown, local lockdowns. So this is a very serious matter, and especially an MP, a member of parliament who sets the laws for us. She is going to break the law in such a major way. Her party won't allow it, and don't be too surprised if by tomorrow you hear that she's resigned.
All right. Therefore, I think this is ongoing. We will just follow that as well. The other thing as well, I think we might just move quickly on Europe level and this conflict in Armenia, Azerbaijan, in this region.
Obviously, the big news, again, we're talking about COVID-19.
We go back to world news that Trump and testing positive, yes.
Trump
and what is the effect on the election, yes?
Well, exactly, because now, obviously, look, there are many conspiracy theories now. One is that he did it deliberately so that he doesn't have to have another public debate, because the first public debate was a disaster. It really was humiliating for America that their president would behave the way he did in that first debate against Biden. So that was a real, own goal. It was a true disaster. And so, some people are saying, well, obviously, with the run up to the election now, there can't be, another public debate. Maybe it might be on Zoom, depending on how serious the symptoms are. Look, the guy is 75 years of age, and he's obese. He's seriously overweight, and these are the two factors which go against him in terms of surviving COVID-19, because he's got obesity. A lot more people who are obese have died from it than those who are not obese. So obesity is a major factor. We don't know what other illnesses he's got, but of course he's an old man. He's 75. So who knows if he will survive or not. But yes, the fact that he has never taken it very seriously. You see, most people in the White House don't bother with masks. And yet, they've been telling everyone to wear masks. And yet the president, and from what I understand, those in the White House, hardly anybody wears a mask. And so their attitude is a little bit laid back, because they've never taken this, Trump and his supporters have never taken this COVID-19 very seriously.
But do you think that because somebody said that almost 2 million people have already voted by post, therefore there will be no question of delaying the election?
Yeah, it all depends. What if he dies? Then what? People die from COVID, and people generally, those who are going to end up dying will die in about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and that's all they survive. So we don't know what's going to happen. He may end up dying. He may, like Boris Johnson, he may recover from it, because he also suffered as well. Remember, he was in hospital for a while, but he recovered. So we don't know what's going to happen, but certainly the message to everyone is this COVID-19 is not a joke. It's not a hoax. It's real, and we need to take it seriously.
And therefore, that there's just question mark on the how, and they could just wait and see. Yeah, therefore, what will happen for the election, all this kind of thing in the United States. Right, in Europe, in Europe, the conflict, I think, in Armenia, Azerbaijan, 30 years on, this what we call disputed area on Nagorno Karabakh.
No, I'm going to correct you there. It's not a disputed area.
No.
Nagorno Karabakh is officially a part of Azerbaijan. No.
Okay.
It is recognized by the United Nations as part of Azerbaijan, but the majority are Orthodox Armenians.
Right.
So it's like you could almost say it's like people in Bradford saying, right, we want to break away from the UK because majority of us are Muslims and we want our own. No. Bradford is part of the UK, and it doesn't matter who's living there. It's always going to be part of the UK. So Nagorno Karabakh is a part of Armenia. Is part of Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, and whether the Armenian minority or majority like it or not, the fact is, it's part of Azerbaijan, and they have no right to forcibly take Nagorno Karabakh away from Azerbaijan and join it up with Armenia. Of course, the Russians being Orthodox as well, they are on the side of Armenia. And even though the majority of Azerbaijanis are Shia, but because Turkey has a historical connection with Azerbaijan, so Turkey is heavily supporting Azerbaijan.
And you think that the call for ceasefire and everything will succeed or not?
Ceasefires, Abdul Aziz, you know and I know, we've seen so many, we've witnessed on so many wars, battles, whether it's in Afghanistan, in Bosnia, Iraq, whatever. A ceasefire only comes about when both sides feel that they're losing more than they're gaining. So then they back off. But if one side feels very confident that they are going to defeat the other side, they are not going to want a ceasefire. They'll want to completely crush the other side.
And of course, as Robert Mitchell, when he was doing the negotiation between the IRA and the British government, that all conflicts are sustained. So therefore, the international interference in any of the conflicts, as long as there is interference in any conflict, those conflicts will not actually be solved, isn't it?
Well, look, it's all about interests and agendas. And yes, it's in the interest of Turkey, I presume. I'm not sure what the interest is, but it's in the interest of Turkey that Nagorno-Karabakh remains part of Azerbaijan, and to oppose Armenia. And of course, the Turks historically have been accused, they would say wrongly, of having acted unjustly against the Armenians in the past during the Ottoman period. But anyway, the way things are, yes, Greece is not, of course, happy as well, because they're also Orthodox. So I think what the Christians are trying to do is turn this into kind of a religious war to get all the Orthodox on the side of Armenia. So you got your Greeks, you've got your Russians, probably Ukrainians as well, I think are also Orthodox, and all the other, and Serbia is Orthodox. So this could turn into a religious war between, Islam and Christianity if things go out of hand. And there's Christians, one report I was reading, they are trying to turn this into some kind of religious conflict.
Right. Okay. Now, as we go along on the international scene as well, is yesterday was actually the second anniversary of the death of Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi
The Washington journalist.
journalist who was killed in the Saudi Arabia Consulate in Istanbul. Now, so far, although they have said that those are people who have done it, and there is now the court in Istanbul is following the case, and in Saudi Arabia they pronounce their sentences, everything. Where is it going to this incident, and how America see it, and how Turkey see it as well, and the international community?
Look, ever since this young kid called Mohammed bin Salman basically took over from his father. His father is still officially the king, but
yes.
He's basically finished because I think he's got Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever. And so he cannot deal with international or other issues. So this young kid, Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, has taken over effectively from his father. And, he's got his own way of doing things. He's not the brightest guy in the world. Some people say he's a bit of a sport brat. And he's destroying basically the image of Saudi Arabia and draining it of its resources. So he started this rather stupid war in Yemen. It's been years now. And these group of Houthis, okay, they're backed by Iran, but you've got a UAE, you've got Saudi, with the help of the Americans and others, I think probably Brits as well. They're trying to get Pakistan involved. Pakistan refused to get involved. And we've seen the mass killings, and Yemen was already one of the poorest countries in the world, and with not much of an infrastructure, etc. And now whatever they had has been destroyed. And so you've got a whole massive, huge population. I don't know, I can't remember how many million, but probably at least 30 million or something, who is effectively on the verge of starvation. These are our Muslim brothers and sisters at the end of the day, and they're human beings. It's tragic what's happened in Yemen, but also it's not just Yemen. This guy thinks, what a dumb thing to do. You don't like this. You don't like Khashoggi because he's writing bad things about Saudi Arabia and the Saudi royal family, and especially MBS in the Washington Post and stuff. So what do? You invite him down to your consulate in Istanbul and chop him up. For God's sake, we're not living 2,000 years ago that you can behave in this utterly barbaric way. That you just kill, and not just kill, but chop up someone that you have a problem with. This guy he's just amazing. And of course, this big mega project he had of, I think, neon or whatever, 2030 project, that looks like it's completely ripped to pieces, especially with the oil price heading downwards, and the only thing that they more or less were producing was oil. They haven't bothered to invest in their infrastructure as much as they should have done. And so Saudi Arabia, it looks like is heading for the exit door, thanks to MBS, and of course the UAE is guilty of this as well, because MBZ, Mohammed bin Zayed, the son of the head of the Emirates, he's from everything I've read, he's the tutor, he's a teacher of MBS, and these are traitors. Why is he a traitor? our brothers in Palestinian brothers in around Al-Aqsa, they refuse to sell their homes. Yeah, they refuse to sell their homes to the Jews because they know the Jews are going to kick them out of their land. They're going to buy their homes, and the Zionists were offering millions, tens of millions of pounds or dollars to buy their homes, way above the actual price. And those brave brothers, they said, no, you could give us $1 billion for our little home, which may not be worth it even more than a few thousand, but we're not going to sell it because we know what the game is. You want to just, depopulate the Palestinian population and populate it with Zionists in order to take over the whole region, even East Jerusalem, to remove all the Arab population there. So we're not going to do it. So what does this guy do? He says to them, through obviously his agencies, he says to the Palestinians, we are Muslims, okay, we'll give you this much, sell it to us. And so they started selling their properties for a very good price to people employed by Mohammed bin Zayed, MBZ of the Emirates. Now, what happens? This traitor sells it onto the Zionists. I mean, what do you say to that? Those Palestinians refuse to sell it to the Zionists. So this guy buys it off them and then sells it to the Zionists themselves. I mean, what can you say? So talking about Saudi Arabia and Khashoggi, these two clowns, the Emirates and Saudi Arabia, they've jumped into bed with Israel now completely, and they've more or less, I suppose, forced the other Gulf Arabs to join and jump in with Israel. Have the Israelis given Palestine back? No, they haven't. So what the hell are you doing, making friendship with someone who's stolen a part of your land and has deprived the whole population of their livelihoods and their homes and made them refugees and planted themselves in? You reward them with friendship and their recognition. Well, how does that make any sense? And what have you got back in return? Well, we don't know. What have you got back in return? Pretty much nothing from what we can see. You just, accepted the burglar as owner of the house that he's burgled. How does that make any sense? So these people are only interested in their own survival. They have no interest in the Ummah. They don't care about their own people. And the result is what you see.
And the position of America on the khashoggi, Jamal's death, and on the deal of the century, as you said it. Why you think America, through this the Trump administration, are compromising all the principles they like to shout about?
Now you've just reminded me something. The last thing I said, and we said last week, was we are going to spend the whole session on Christian Zionism and why America is so pro-Israel and what is happening in the Middle East. And I think we completely forgot about that. Perhaps we can save that for next week.
All right. Okay. Therefore, I think
that was meant to be the main topic today.
Therefore, I think it needs a good 1 hour. I think that to.
Oh, it does. There's a lot to say about that because it is connected with Akhir Zaman. It is connected with the Christian view of Armageddon and the coming of Jesus Christ. It's connected with the second coming of Christ from a Muslim perspective, because so there's a lot of interfaith element to it, a lot of politics to it. That's a very, very interesting thing, and the whole creation of Israel. That I'm going to give you information that'll blow your mind and those of the listeners.
Okay, inshallah. Therefore, I think
it'll be different to whatever you can imagine.
Okay, I think we have to come to our end, I think, to this program. Therefore, I think next week maybe we dedicate this program, inshallah, for that, and how this
Make a note of it
sign.
before we forget again.
Yes, a day, the signs of the day of judgment and all this kind of thing, and
It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing because
a good reading from Christian and Islamic point of views as well. Okay, brother Asad Zaman, Jazakallah khair. It was great, I think, to have you again. I thank you for your contribution, inshallah. And for our viewers, listen, if you have any questions, you can just put them on the comment box, please, for us. And until I will see you next week, inshallah. Have a great week, inshallah. And Allah bless you. And we say, Subhanakallah bihamdik, nashhadu astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.